You guys know me, right? When it comes to covering movies on the channel, we only dare to look at the absolute top-notch cinematic masterpieces that the world has to offer us. So why don't you take a seat, get nice and comfy, as I take a look at The Bunnyman, or as it's known across the pond down here in the UK, The Bunnyman Massacre, because hell yeah, violence is cool. But according to IMDb, the second movie is also called The Bunnyman Massacre, so who even knows what's real anymore? And speaking of cool, my clothing brand, Morbid Minds. Check it out. It begins with a woman waking up in a bathtub, but she's doing it wrong. You don't bathe with your clothes on, or with your hands tied together for that matter. The home video, Super 8 camera style, mixed with the gritty aesthetic, gives off the impression that the inspirations for this movie are actually going back a ways, with it reminding me a lot of what you would have seen come out of the 70s and 80s. And by that I mean mean-ass movies that focus on the torment and the torture of women, usually accompanied by someone suffering from Parkinson's disease operating the camera. She runs off into the woods and is attacked by someone clearly very upset about her inability to bathe herself properly, and stabs her in the mouth because how dare you have the ability to chew food. And then the movie lets us know what beautiful artistic film we're watching. Bunman. Wait. The movie begins for real this time, with another bloodied woman waking up scared and confused, and I'm beginning to sense a theme here. She runs away and falls over a few times, because she never really did do that well in PE, before getting in a truck to hide, to be confronted by the absolutely horrific sight of someone in a bunny suit. Please, for the love of God, no one ever take this woman to Disneyland. After conveniently climbing into the back of another truck to save the bunny man from blowing out his back while lifting her there, the movie opens for real this time. Look, I don't know how many times I can handle this movie just showing me something and then randomly cutting to something else as if the story is actually beginning. We're then introduced to a group of friends in a car as they drive up behind the very same truck that we've just seen, overtake it, for it to then immediately overtake them and try to force them into oncoming traffic. You know, like a well-adjusted member of society who should definitely be driving around in a 10-ton murder machine. Despite their best efforts to get away from the truck, it once again positions itself behind the car, accompanied by some kind of demon roar, because whoever was in charge of the edit was like, you know what this scene really needs right now? A random, animalistic roaring sound. That makes sense. Eventually they decide to pull over, as stopping the car for a demon roaring truck is clearly such a great idea, and we're presented with this immaculate dubbed line that might be the cleanest attempt at dubbing a line in any movie ever.
Yeah, I'm sure.
So smooth. Eventually the truck does allow them to go, but it's apparently just messing around with them, as it somehow appears in front, causing them to swerve off the road and into the dirt. And it would seem that driving onto a lightly dusted patch of ground is enough to completely total a car, as they all decide to just sit around doing nothing as the bunny man drives away. He's got more important things to do, like take the woman from the back of his truck, tie one end of her to a tree and the other end of her to his truck, and tearing her apart like she's some kind of piñata. But instead of candy and confetti, he gets warm sticky organs and an even more annoying mess to clean up. While one of the friends, Jack, is under the car attempting to get it started again, after it was exposed to such harsh conditions as driving on some dirt, the truck, that apparently nobody heard coming, that growls like a demon mind you, rams into the back of them and drives away. But the funny thing is, it takes a good minute for everyone to realise that Jack was under the car, because I guess he just really wasn't that important to them. And when they do discover the grisly sight of one of their friends pancaked beneath the weight of a car, they have the completely normal human reaction to just walk away. Cursed with the horror movie condition known as Big Dumb Idiot, they all decide to walk down a side road lined with dozens of upside down crosses, as if that's a completely normal and reassuring thing to come across in the middle of nowhere, and then act all surprised when they come across bags of human bones dangling from the trees. Yeah, that's the type of thing you can expect to find when walking down a road lined with upside down crosses. But does that deter them? No, it doesn't. They make it to the home of Mr. Upside Down Cross Treebone Man, and unsurprisingly, he gives off the exact same impression you'd expect from someone who does indeed dangle bones from trees, as he mocks their dead friend and threatens to shoot them after they ask to use his phone, and then he's immediately forgotten about, as the Upside Down Cross Treebone Man is never mentioned again, despite it clearly being the type of thing that you definitely expect to pop back up later on. But moving on, we're then introduced to two people on the side of the road, clearly up to no good, as they've just loaded a body into their car. As you do. and they notice the group of friends walking directly towards them, so the woman, who definitely isn't a bad guy, gets out of the car to confront them and tells them to wait at a nearby abandoned cabin for 20 minutes so she can come back and give them all a ride after taking her friend to the emergency room. Immediately followed by both the group not going to the cabin and the woman not picking them up. Yeah, this film's kinda got the habit of just not making any sense. The next day rolls around, and they actually decide to head where they were told to meet, like 8 hours later. And two of the friends, Jen and Mike, come across the bunny man in the middle of the woods, really understanding the mind of his friend. Like, really understanding. So in response to his little mind-to-mind session interruption, he grabs Jen as Mike sprints away, like the good friend that he is, and the bunny man proceeds to brutally cut her up with the chainsaw, putting an end to this well-developed character that we were all definitely really attached to. The group take off running towards the cabin, and being pursued by the bunny man, they manage to take the chainsaw from him using the ultimate self-defense tool, a mattress. They find someone chained up in the cabin with them, and as Tiffany gets knocked unconscious, they all just kind of run away from the lone unarmed dude in a bunny costume who they took the chainsaw from. So why are they running away again then? Oh yeah, they suffer from the horror movie condition known as Big Dumb Idiot. Mike runs away to a nearby shed and finds a bloody dead guy on the floor who he very quickly accompanies as the bunny man follows him in, wielding the chainsaw that Mike took from him. What? And as you can hear the sound of Mike gurgling on his own blood, you can hear the screams of Tiffany as she's being violated by the chained man. She manages to break free and makes the incredibly smart decision to climb up a tree instead of just carrying on running away as she's slowly being pursued by the bunny man with the chainsaw in hand. You know, chainsaws, the things used for cutting down trees. After being knocked unconscious as the tree falls, she begins to come to in the cabin, surrounded by the bunny man and his half-pet slave, as they have her restrained with a video camera recording her. Because there's nothing like a good old-fashioned, wholesome home video to show the grandkids one day. He covers her mouth with tape before turning his attention to the nail gun that he uses to repeatedly puncture her stomach with, and then pulls a tooth from her mouth using a set of pliers. Once he's done performing his non-consensual dental work, he picks up the chainsaw, cuts off a limb, and the scene just kind of ends. Well, I guess she's dead then. With everyone else dead, the only two that are left alive are Rachel and this guy. Yeah, I'm an hour into the movie and I have no idea what this guy's name is. And to be honest, I don't think anyone has ever said his name, so I'm just gonna call him Guy. Rachel and Guy watch as Bunnyman and his pet leave, so their plan is to run in and find Tiffany. And when they run in, they do find Tiffany, all 15 pieces of her, followed by Rachel looking out of the window to see Bunnyman cooking up a nice piece of well-done Tiffany steak, as I guess he just got hungry in the middle of his homicidal spree. And we see that he's accompanied by the very same woman who offered them a ride the previous night. Wait, she's evil? No. They hide in the house with the intention of stealing the woman's keys, and when they all come back in to eat, not only has someone clearly neglected to teach Bunnyman the basics of how to use cutlery, but he clearly doesn't want to take his mask off to eat. Eventually he is persuaded by the woman, but honestly I'm not so sure why she wanted him to take the mask off so badly. He almost looks as cooked as Tiffany. Rachel makes a sprint for the keys, and Guy heroically sacrifices himself in order to give Rachel the opportunity to flee and save herself. But she just kinda doesn't do that. Yeah. She wakes up restrained to a wheelchair as Guy slowly begins to free himself from his restraints using a pocket knife that he somehow has that I guess the family just didn't find. And the woman begins to torment Rachel, with the woman being incredibly jealous as she believes Rachel is better looking than her. So as she's threatening Rachel with a knife, Guy jumps up, knocks her to the ground and grabs the chainsaw. This time Rachel actually does run off to the car, and once she's gone, Guy runs the chainsaw through the woman because I guess he just really wanted to know what it would feel like. And after running out of the house too, the next day rolls around, and not only has this movie not ended yet, but the pair find themselves in the exact same unfortunate predicament that they were in back in the beginning of the movie. The truck is right behind them, but this time, Guy's got a plan. He offers Rachel to the Bunnyman as she plays dead, and as he lifts her into his truck, she pulls out a pair of scissors and begins violently cutting into his neck with them, as if he's one really evil piece of paper. She kicks him out of the truck, and the pair take it, with the movie then coming to an end with a very much still alive Bunnyman walking off into the sunset because he might be some kind of psychotic, murderous, cannibalistic cosplayer, but he sure does appreciate a good view. And when the credits begin to play, just like the intro to the movie, we're exposed to some grainy home video styled footage, but this time with a toddler crying over the mutilated remains of who I presume is their parents, because just in case you didn't get the memo, Bunnyman bad. And once you've actually made it to the end of the credits, if you're a weird person who does weird things like that, you're shown a disclaimer stating that the movie is fictitious, despite the cover of the movie stating that it's based off a true story. And by based off a true story, what they really mean is an urban legend stated to have taken place around 1904 of an escaped mental patient living out in the woods, dressed up as a bunny, butchering and stringing up trick-or-treaters on Halloween night beneath a bridge. But much like me, the legend appears to be nothing more than a disappointment. Because upon further investigation, it appears that the story actually originated in the 1970s sometime, with a couple parked not so far from that bridge having an encounter with someone shouting something about trespassing and throwing a hatchet at their car. And the perpetrator just apparently appeared to be dressed in white with something on his head. So obviously the logical conclusion is psychotic murderous Bunnyman. Before we finish up, I just want to give another shout out to my clothing brand Morbid Minds. If you see anything on screen that you like now, make sure you click the link in the description to cop yourself a cool t-shirt or hoodie, and stay tuned because we've got some new designs coming soon. And if you're down in the description anyway, you may as well follow me on Twitter. And before we finish up, I'd like to give a big shout out to my patrons. Thank you to Dom, Hunters263, Rebecca Pitts, A Dandy in Space, Martin Brannan, Natasha Twyman, Jarrett C. Bees, Pascal Mathis, Fighting the Pirates, Richard McGowan III, Macy J, Reese Harford, Horatio, Raimi Patterson, Chris, Michelle, Newcomb, Dennis, Wade Knott, Ike, Ashley L. Wintz, Austin Weipert, Christopher Butsky, Joshua Torres, Billy Kyle, Remy, Josh Brooks, and Ash Kamihara. Thank you so much to my patrons, and thank you to everyone else for watching.